Welcome back to my station. I would like to share with you today a little bit about how I feel after living now 5 years in Florida and the comparison to living most of my life in California. The first thing I've noticed is that it seems like the price of some of the things are much less expensive. First thing I noticed was the price of gas. So as I left California and filled up the tank in Barstow, the price of gas at that time, 5 years ago, was $8.95, which was egad, right? So you travel east, you're going east, and then you hit Mississippi and you look over there at that gas sign and it says 2.95. And then all of a sudden in your mind, it's just like party time, party time, party time. And the other thing I noticed going from California east is how the gas stations inside change. So in California, you would really have to think like a lot, so much you have to think about in if you're buying something to eat. So you would think nothing about if you bought a bag of chips or something sealed and just, in a package at a gas station. Well, you know, when you go east, you hit gas stations like Racetrack, Wawa. You hit all of these kind of gas stations, and you walk in there, and I swear to goodness, it's like you see the rainbow and sparkles and all these things coming out of the sky, and you get to see real food. There's some chef back there, and you take a bite, you order some food, and it's just like, the Hallelujah chorus singing in the background. No kidding. So anyway, Racetrack. Let me tell you about Racetrack. Racetrack has an entire wall of ice cream. So it's like soft serve kind, but then they have a bar of stuff you could put on top of it, and the whole time you could hear the angels singing to you. And the whole time you're like, okay, but before you buy this stuff, you might have to use the restroom. Well, the restrooms going from the Pacific coast to the Atlantic coast it's not comparable. Um, you could literally eat off the floors going west or east. And no, you wouldn't want to eat off the floors because, well, that's pretty disgusting. But um, they're beautiful. You go to Buc-ee's, which is, world renowned for the restrooms, for their cleanliness. It's just like, oh my goodness, it's like a different world. And then you go to various other gas stations, and they're equally as wonderful. But Buc-ee's sells stuff, and people travel around the nation to go to Buc-ee's because they have cool stuff, and everything says Buc-ee's on it, and they're collectible. So there's that. The other thing that I noticed is how everything changed from when I left California. It was in a drought, and so everything was brown. So as you travel from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean, you will see that, guess what? Everything is green. So that's pretty cool. And then you get out here and you go, okay, well, you're going to stop someplace to eat, obviously. And you might sit down and go, oh, I'll have a tea and a salad. And they bring you, oh, you could drink all the tea you want. You take their first sip, and you honestly think that you have gone into diabetic coma because it's that sweet. You could actually almost take your spoon and it will stand up just like that. And you're going to think, boy, I don't know if I could have two. And, they have everything, all the sodas, all that, but they're called pop. So in California, you have soda, and here you have pop. The other thing I've learned is getting ready for hurricanes. Now, I lived in California. I lived in the Central Valley, and we had fires. We had fires every year, and some were pretty doggone scary, got close to my home. So you go from California, you're going back over to the Atlantic Ocean, and you have these hurricanes, and you have to prepare just like you would in California for forest fires. You would have to prepare for a hurricane. So the first thing you do is you decide whether or not you're going to evacuate or if you're going to hunker down. And so my one of my favorite terms here is hunkering down. So I have not yet evacuated for a hurricane. I've hunkered down. And so you're hunkering down, you might be protecting your windows with, cardboard or not cardboard, excuse me, some kind of wood or whatever. If you have proper shutters, that would be amazing. But you're getting ready, and so you're hunkering down. The next thing you're going to do is order hurricane food. hmm Hurricane food is, well, to me, you're thinking, oh, what do I need to, survive for 5 or 6 days? Well, hurricane food is everything like the sweet tea that's not good for you. Lesson learned is that I am absolutely good to go for more fruit, more water, and get things like that instead of the canned foods, which is loaded with sodium and chips and all that. Everything's loaded with sodium or sugar. And you can't really survive on spam and you know that kind of thing. I have tuna and stuff, so I have protein. So am going to hunker down again this year if we haven't any hurricanes, and knock on wood we don't. But if we do, I'll be getting prepared and hunkering down. The other term I learned was this week. I had somebody share a story with me, and they said they were knee high to a grasshopper. So, knee high to a grasshopper means that you're short. You're shorter than the person that's, talking to you. So, knee high to a grasshopper is a very cool term. And again, you get lots of terms like holler, holler, like holler when dinner's ready, that kind of thing. So you're hollering. My favorite to date that I have heard, and I'm so happy to share this with you, is the term um, hootie ho. So it's HOTTIEHOO. And so it would be like a term you're going to your neighbor's house and knock on the door and go, hootie ho, anybody home? So there's that. And people say, bless your heart. That's something, that you've heard in your lifetime. And also they say druthers. So a druther is saying like, I would rather. So that's a cool term too. Now here's one that's really cool is uh, tore up. So let me use it in a sentence. She was tore up about not getting invited to the ladies' luncheon. It truly upset her. Yep. Okay. And here's another last one. Okay. Molly grubs. So you would say there, I'll be there if I don't have the molly grubs. And so that's basically saying I'll be there if I feel them. Okay. Anyway, those are the terms I've learned. Obviously, one of the big things that I do miss is tri-tip. You can't find tri-tip. They have different cuts of meat here. Tri-tip is not one of them. The other thing I miss is mountains. Florida, it has nothing. There's mountains you have to drive to, and usually those are in Georgia and more north. Um, I miss the mountains. I miss the lakes in California because there's lakes everywhere in Florida. In fact, I live on a lake. So, but it's just different. You don't have the beautiful scent of pine trees. You don't have it's the environment of the mountains where you're going out. You can smell trees and you smell the crispness in the air, and you have birds that, sing back to you. Here we have birds. We have cardinals, beautiful singing voices. And, but in California, those birds were talking to me. Oh, maybe I'm a little, birdie in the brain or whatever. Um, the other thing that I'm learning, folks, and so what I'm really learning is how tongue twisted you get when you do a video for YouTube. Totally tongue twisted. My tongue becomes fat, it becomes stuck, and so I struggle. So honestly, I don't just get on here and and start talking like I am right now because I've done it now probably 6,000 times. I will hear myself start stumbling, which would be great bloopers, but who would care, right? Well, you might care. I think my son might care. My sons, I don't know. I know one watches me regularly because he lets me know, um, he gives me really valuable feedback. So anyway, bless my heart. Today we didn't have any stories to read, but we will. And so you got to learn about my trip going from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic. The Atlantic Ocean, in fact, the nearest beach to me is the largest shark population in the world. I think maybe Austria might have, be a little surpassed us, but you have to be careful and they're there. And of course, I'm old. I'm not going to go swimming in the ocean going out too far because they like to come up to the beach. They'll come up as shallow as they can. Um, and shark bites here, it's not very common, but they're there. Interesting enough, one more thing before I let you go is guess what? Florida is in a drought, meaning that there's fires. No, I don't miss that can go away. Go away. Um, you get to the point where you looking at your green outside that you so love and everything's going, so it's wilting or whatever. But I'm sure I'll regret saying this because we'll probably get a ton of rain after this. Anyway, please hang on and not hang on now, but hang on because I'm gonna get those stories coming. Um, so I wish you the best. I hope you all have a great day. And this is Katie, hoping that you guys will hunker down and push that like button and subscribe. Thank you. Till next time. Bye.